Hey, all you super players out there, Ben Lodice, aka 5 Buck Lunch, and for today's previews, we finally got some really good stuff. I've been a little disappointed with some of the stuff we've gotten recently, but it looks like Bandai's finally trying to come out with the big guns. We'll have to see. There's some new black cards I really like, as well as a new Vegeta Leader that looks insane. So we'll have to take a look at that. First off, we have Ice Shenron, the Diabolic. This is a 4-drop EX Evolve on an Ice Shenron with energy cost of 2, which I believe we still don't have. It's also a counterplay, interestingly enough, where if your leader is mono yellow, you can play this card, and if the card cost being played is 5 or less, it's played with its skills negated for the turn. And also auto, if your leader is a Shadow Dragon card, when this card is played, shoot up to one of your opponent's battle cards or unison cards, ignoring barrier and negated skills for the turn. So this is an interesting card. It's really probably going to be like a 1 or 2 of in the deck. It's hard to tell without seeing the blue Ice Shenron, but it's a really expensive counter that does a lot, essentially. So you can leave 4 up, and you can drop this, and it negates the card coming in play, plus it will negate one other battle card or unison card, ignoring barrier for the turn. So as far as I'm aware, this card is the only thing that negates unisons. It's probably also going to be really good in the mirror for Sin Shenron, because you can drop this and negate your opponent's Mecha Yoruba unison blocker. And it can't block, it doesn't get any of its abilities. So for that alone, it'll probably see a little bit of play. But yeah, it's a really, really interesting card. You probably won't be using the counterplay that often, but the fact that it comes in play and negates a unison is actually like really good. And in the mirror, negating like key blockers could also be like incredibly important. Next up, we have Super Naturion Shenron Pan Absorbed. A lot of mouthfuls in this video. He's a 4-drop 20k. For 1 yellow, you can EX Evolve over Naturia Shenron with energy cost of 3, which we saw yesterday. Naturia Shenron is a card that simply puts one of your battle cards from your drop on the bottom, and it has critical, I think it was? I don't really remember. If this card is played, place up to 3 Shadow Dragon cards from your drop at the bottom of your deck in any order. Then this card gains dual attack for the turn. So since it says up to, this basically means that when this card comes in play, it has dual attack. That alone will probably make it at least like a 2-of in the deck, simply because it's a name you can bring back and has dual attack. Auto for 1 yellow. When this card is used in a combo, play 1 7-star ball, negative energy overflow from your drop area. So this is interesting. Unlike the Sin Shenrons, where when they're removed by your opponent's skills, they become, or rather, they bring their balls back into play. This one, when you combo with it, it brings the ball back into play, which is interesting. There could be some kind of chain you could use. Since this is a combo, you can attack with it, stand it back up since it has dual attack, and then combo it away on another attack to bring the ball back and then go back up the chain. That could be interesting and actually like throw a lot of attacks out for not that much energy, since I believe the 7-star ball and the 2-drop doesn't cost any energy to go into. So you could attack with this, stand it back up, combo with it, bring your ball back out, then evolve into the 2 for free, EX evolve for this into 1. So your whole chain basically costs 2 and you get 2 more attacks then. Could be interesting. Next we have Makio Star. This is the card that's really going to bring the Garlic Jr. deck together. We've kind of been waiting on it because it's been referenced on a couple other cards, but it's a 1-drop field. When you activate this card, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, add 1 yellow Demon Clan from your deck to your hand so it replaces itself. And if your leader card is a yellow Demon Clan card, at the end of your turn, choose up to 1 yellow Demon Clan card with energy cost of 2 or less in your hand, play it with its skills negated for the turn. So this is just going to go more into that really broke negate they have, and really allows you to kind of throw your hand on the board, which is going to be how the Garlic Jr. deck works. It's kind of a new kind of swarm deck, but it's interesting because it's almost like a defensive mid-rangey swarm, and you really have to be able to protect your Demon Clan cards, so you really want to get 4 out there. Now keep in mind, if you have 2 on the field and Makio Star, you're going to be able to play a 3rd, and then the leader will let you play a 4th when your opponent attacks. So it's going to be a lot easier than you'd think to actually maintain that 4 Demon Clan cards. We'll have to see, though. It's still like a swarm deck, so it still like loses pretty hard to board wipes and things like Abuni attacking all your battle cards. So we'll have to see going forward, but this is definitely a huge step in the right direction for the deck. Krillin Moments for Comeback. This is just the yellow version of the super combo cycle. If your leader card is yellow, if your life is at 4 or less, and all of your energy is yellow, when you use card using a combo, it gets plus 10k power. Then you can choose 1 card in your hand, place it at the bottom of your deck. If you do draw 2, it's essentially giving everybody a Paragus combo. Super Ice Ray, this card's kind of weird. It's just a strictly worse Crusher Ball. 1 cost counterplay if your leader card is mono yellow. The card being played is energy cost 4 less. It's played in rest mode. It's just a worse Crusher Ball. Super Saiyan 3 Son Goku, Man on a Mission. So this is a 6-drop 20k. Overwhelm for 6, critical double strike. This card's pretty good. Critical double is a very good combination of keywords together, and the fact that you don't have to pay any actual energy for this is really, really strong. This could be seen in Vegix, and it could be seen in the Broly Overwhelm deck. Unfortunately, it doesn't have 30k power, so it won't count towards that, but it's still a really solid card. And we get another really solid Overwhelm card. This is a 6-drop 25k, Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta. It has Overwhelm 6 for 2 black. So interestingly enough, this is an Overwhelm that you have to play in a black deck. You can't splash this in other decks. When this card is played using Overwhelm, draw 1 card, then choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, and send it to its owner's warp. So this is obviously very strong. It replaces itself, and it warps a card, ignoring barrier. We don't really have these two effects stuck together on Overwhelm yet. But the fact that you have to pay 2 makes it a little bit worse. I don't know. We'll have to see. The fact that it ignores barrier is a really big deal, but I would rather it like untap an energy than draw a card, I think, here. That being said, it's obviously a very solid card, and depending on what you need for your Overwhelm, you're just going to have a ton of options, and you're going to pick whichever ones kind of apply to your meta. This is the black version of the Super Combo Cycle for this set. Does the exact same thing as the other ones. There's a whole bunch of people saying that this card specifically means Bibbidi is getting banned. I'm not saying Bibbidi's not getting banned. Bibbidi might get banned, but this card isn't like any indication of that. Every color is getting one of these. Super Saiyan Bardock, the Tenacious. Now this card is really interesting. It's a 6-drop, Overwhelm 6 for 1 black, so you have to be playing some amount of black to play this card. When this card is played using Overwhelm, your opponent can only attack with battle cards once during their next turn. When this card is played, you can't play copies of this card during your next turn. So this is a black Nimbus on a battle card, which is really interesting. It's 100% going to be in like everybody's side deck if you're playing black for sure, but whether it's main deckable or not is really going to depend on how much battle card attacking your local meta has. Nimbus has kind of fallen off in its power level a little bit because there's a lot of people using leaders and unisons for their attacks. But that being said, this is still a really powerful effect on a nice body, and it only costs 1 energy. So, like, this card is definitely going to see some play and is very strong. Dark Broly, Demon Realm Ravager. So we have another of our 30k Dark Brolys. And so it's unique. 30k, if your leader card is a Dark Broly card, you can send 6 black battle cards other than this card from your drop area to your warp. Play this card from your drop area. When this card is played, send up to 1 battle card from your opponent's drop area to their warp. Then your opponent chooses 1 card in their hand and sends it to their warp. You can't play copies of this card for the turn. So this card is interesting. It's looking more and more like this Dark Broly deck is going to be about like getting your few unique Dark Brolys out, and probably Xeno evolving one of them would be my guess. That being said, it's interesting. So it's obviously really easy to get out. All you got to do is basically Overwhelm, but not Overwhelm 6. And then when this card is played, you get to like modify your opponent's drop area a little bit, which is good to have that incidental because it's really good against certain decks. And then your opponent chooses 1 card in their hand and sends it to their warp. Is a decent effect. Like, it's not bad, but your opponent is choosing it, so it's not going to be like amazing. It's basically only good if your opponent is on low cards to begin with. And I don't believe anything else that we've seen in this Dark Broly deck like makes your opponent discard cards or anything. So that's kind of a weird effect to staple onto this. But yeah, it's not a bad card. You'll definitely play it in Dark Broly just to get more attackers. All right, now we have this really broken Blue Vegeta Leader that was previewed on YouTube. And yeah, it's really, really good. So when this card attacks, draw 1 card. Auto once per turn. When you deal damage to your opponent by attacking with this card, look at the top card of your deck. If it's a mono blue card, you may place your energy in rest mode. Otherwise, place it on top of your deck. So yeah, this card just gets through for a damage every turn, pretty much no matter what. And your opponent has to combo to defend against it. Also, one thing to note is that when this card awakens, you don't untap energy. You simply just draw 1 card, so that's the old Krillin Awaken. But holy smokes. So this card will probably never actually ramp until late game. But what it basically says is your opponent has to out-combo you on this card every single time. Ramping is such, like, a huge advantage, especially in blue, that your opponent's basically never going to be able to let this card through. Like, unless they're planning on killing you next turn or something, like, this is really good. It basically says this card always does damage. On the flip side, when it attacks, it draws a card, and then when your opponent activates a counter spell, switch this card to active mode. So basically, if your opponent's going to counter anything, including counter plays, with all those free counter plays, this card gains dual attack. Once per turn when you deal damage, same thing, look at the top card. If it's mono blue, charge it. So yeah, this card is pretty insane. It doesn't need to awaken because it draws cards when it attacks. And it basically reads, think of this less as a ramp leader and more of this as like an aggro leader, because your opponent can't let you ramp. Like, you can't just give your opponent free ramp in this game. It scales so ridiculously well with like how the cards work that your opponent basically has to combo over you every single time. So your opponent's going to get low on cards real quick in the early game, because not only does that mean... All right, so let's see if I can explain this well on why this card is so good. And it's not because it ramps, which is what everyone's going to look at immediately. So the way this deck game works is you almost always want to take your first 4 life. With some exceptions, obviously, but for the most part, taking your first 4 life still leaves you in a safe zone and allows you to awaken and be more powerful. So this card basically tells your opponent, all right, if you don't want me to ramp, not only do you not get cards from taking life, you have to commit more cards to defending yourself. So it's basically, in the early game, a +2 every time this card attacks and draws a card. So it's +3 because it's going to attack, draw a card, then it's going to, your opponent has to commit at least 1 card to defending against this attack. So that's another card, and your opponent's not actually getting that life to their hand because they have to defend themselves. So that's a 3rd card. So the amount of pressure that this leader is going to put out early is absolutely insane and is probably unlike anything we've ever seen. This leader actually, I think, borders on broken, and we'll have to see going forward. It's just absolutely insane. And, like, what are you going to do? You're going to take the life early and let your opponent just ramp on you? If they went first, they drop a Zeno, that's 4 energy on turn 2. Like, that's absolutely insane. You can't let your opponent do that. Like, the game will just be over. So, yeah, this card is really, really broken. Expect to see this a lot. This is clearly going to be a tier 1 leader just because of the pressure it forces on your opponent. Because, like, okay, let me put you in a circumstance. Your opponent's going second. You play a card. Turn 1, they attack. All right, you defend yourself. Turn 2, they attack again, but you don't have the cards you want to commit because you didn't get the cards from last turn. So you didn't take a life, and you let it through. So now your opponent's at 4 energy on turn 3. They drop a Boony, attack with this. Now you have to defend this attack, and a Boony swinging attacks at you. Like, it's just so insane the kind of pressure, the amount of pressure this leader puts on. So yeah, Broken Vegeta Blue's actually going to be a deck, which is nice. I guess Vegeta's a deck, or I'm sorry, I think it's Gogeta. I don't remember which fusion is. Whatever the structure deck leader is kind of a deck right now, but this is going to be tier 1. It's just way too strong otherwise. So yeah, there's my little rant about this Vegeta leader and about how it's going to be amazing. Please like, subscribe if you're interested in that SS4, SS3 Trunks deck building contest. It's still going on until midnight tomorrow, so submit your decks for that. Go out there, play some Super, and have some fun.